Tonight, the Epstein controversy rocking some of the MAGA world's most outspoken members.
The president has said that he wants all credible evidence to come forward.
We have an exclusive interview with House Speaker Mike Johnson for more on how House GOP are responding.
There's no daylight between the House Republicans and the White House on maximum disclosure.
Plus, as world pressure mounts against Israel's war on Hamas, IDF ground troops enter areas of central Gaza City for the first time in the nearly 2-year fight, the latest on the Middle East.
And the digital arms race, the Pentagon bringing Silicon Valley to the battlefield.
We need to make sure our service members, our warfighters, have the best technology on the battlefield.
How the Defense Department is using advanced technology to fight the wars of tomorrow.
All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. The Epstein saga blowing up and closing down Capitol Hill. Good evening and welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And in Washington, I'm Jenna Browder. Well, calls for transparency are now on hold as the Speaker of the House sends lawmakers home early just before a key vote on Jeffrey Epstein.
Democrats on the Rules Committee were gaining traction to force a vote demanding the Trump administration release all the files related to the convicted sex offender, with a few Republicans potentially joining in. That's when GOP leaders decided to cut short their work and began the August recess early.
CBN News' chief political correspondent Dave Brody sat down with House Speaker Mike Johnson to discuss their growing quests for answers. And he joins us now. David?
Thanks, Jenna. Yeah, we had a long discussion about a myriad of topics, including the Epstein files, which you'll hear from here in just a moment. But we also talked about the big bombshell revelations with Tulsi Gabbard, the DNI chief, who released those declassified documents implicating President Obama and others who she says manufactured intelligence to hurt Trump back in 2016 over the Russia hoax. That's where we begin. Although news during Donald Trump's second term has been coming fast and furious, this latest bombshell is downright startling. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard declassifying documents showing what she labels overwhelming evidence of former President Barack Obama and his national security team basically creating intelligence about Russia attempting to influence the 2016 election.
There's no question in my mind that this intelligence community assessment that President Obama ordered be published, which contained a manufactured intelligence document. It's worse than even politicization of intelligence. It was manufactured intelligence that sought to achieve President Obama and his team's objective, which was undermining President Trump's presidency and subverting the will of the American people.
Gabbard called the act treasonous conspiracy. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson is troubled too.
Well, I don't know how to summarize it by way of description in a snappy phrase, but I will tell you it is deeply problematic. We recognize that the people who are being called out now were involved in a scheme. We knew that it was a shameless, false set of accusations, and yet they perpetuated the lie on the American people, and they looked right into the camera and just lied, clearly. And they knew what they were up to the whole time. So there must be accountability for that.
You say there must be accountability. The DOJ will work on the criminal aspect of this. What's the role of the House here specifically? I mean, people want to see subpoenas, they want to see depositions, they want to see whether it be Brennan, Clapper, potentially the former president of the United States. Are you willing to go down that route? Because a lot of people want to see some of these folks questioned under oath.
Of course. Look, I think we have a responsibility to follow the truth where it leads. And I do expect that whether there's a special counsel appointed, which some are suggesting, and or in conjunction with the House investigations, that we will get the answers. And there will be accountability to the extent that we're able to do that, referring people to the DOJ for prosecution and any other measure that is appropriate as we begin to uncover more of the facts.
Does it get tricky at all with the former president, President Obama, looking at what his role in this is and bringing him in for some sort of deposition, potential subpoena?
Well, listen, I mean, we have no concern about that. If it's uncomfortable for him, he shouldn't have been involved in overseeing this, which is what it appears to us has happened.
The other story continuing to make waves, the Epstein files. Democrats and even a few Republicans want a House vote to force the DOJ to release all the Epstein documents. They filed a discharge petition, meaning if 218 members of Congress agree, they can force a vote. The Speaker has some tactical maneuvers to stop it if he so chooses. Are you willing to let them have that vote, or procedurally can you kind of, how do we say this, muck it up a little bit?
Well, I think it's a moot point now. I mean, there's no daylight between the House Republicans and the White House on maximum disclosure. The president has said that he wants all credible evidence to come forward, and he's now ordered the grand jury testimony or asked the DOJ and the Attorney General to request that of the court, and they have, and we'll allow the space for all that to play out. And so if there's a role for Congress to play, we will, but right now we're in full agreement with the Commander-in-Chief.
So would you allow then, or you would not allow the discharge petition to go forward?
The discharge petition is a political ploy. The Democrats are playing games with this. You know, I'll let everybody else determine the motives of everyone involved, okay? But obviously the Democrats here have shown their hand many times. They want to try to damage the president. They want to go after President Trump. They want to put speed bumps in the way of all the progress we're making, and they see here a political opportunity.
For the Speaker of the House, just another politically charged and busy week on Capitol Hill. And that discharge petition specifically will probably be brought up, if not on the House floor, it'll be discussed sometime in September, maybe even October. So this isn't going away. Jenna, John?
Indeed, it is not. David, a great get with that interview. Also joining us now is CBN senior White House correspondent Kelly Wright. Gentlemen, welcome to the both of you.
Yeah, David, talk about timing there. A sit down with the Speaker of the House just as we're learning about these manufactured intelligence charges. David, what about that? And what was your biggest takeaway from your interview with the Speaker?
Well, he made news during the interview when he talked about former President Obama, essentially saying that he's open and willing, he's looking at potentially President Obama possibly testifying in front of Congress. And so I thought that was a pretty big deal. And then he had some pretty choice words for the former president as well. So that made some news for sure. But beyond that, and we're going to get into a lot more with the Speaker Johnson interview next week, because we had about another 15 minutes or so that you haven't seen yet. And that'll air on the 700 Club next week. But in that, he talks a lot about his affection for President Trump, and it really is authentic. And he's got some great stories to tell, including, yes, he did an imitation of President Trump right on camera. Oh, it's a doozy, and I'm looking forward to that. I actually saw it. I think everybody will look forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
I was about to say, I think we're all looking forward to it. To the Epstein files, Speaker Johnson holding a press conference today, spending a lot of time criticizing fellow Republican Tom Massey, now sending lawmakers home early for their summer recess to avoid that vote, as we were just talking about on the release of the files before September. Kelly, your reaction to that and this issue that not only continues to dog the administration, but split the president's base, and we're seeing split Republicans on Capitol Hill.
Well, to be fair, John and Jenna, my reaction really doesn't matter. It's really what matters from the White House, the Oval Office, where things are going on. The president making that very clear while talking to members of the media in the Oval Office today. And I can tell you what his opinion is. He called the former President Barack Obama, called him a traitor, saying that this was a treasonous act that he committed, and then went so far as to say that he is guilty without a trial. And then the president talked about how the former president, along with Hillary Clinton, as well as the president's senior people within the intelligence community, actually manufactured the intelligence. As a result of that, he thinks that this is the greatest controversy to hit the White House in years. And he is pushing this narrative that they will investigate this, and more discussions about this will come.
Yeah, quite a change from, I think, was it Jimmy Carter's funeral when we saw President Obama, President Trump, pretty chummy.
This is, yucking it up, it seemed.
Yeah. Was the Trump administration today, they announced it again, withdrawing from UNESCO as it did during their first administration. Some political observers, David, are saying that this White House is really just trying to change the topic away from Epstein, away from the manufactured, with things like the manufactured intelligence claims or the lawsuit threat against the Wall Street Journal. Do you think that there's some legitimacy to that, David? Your take on that?
Not really. There is an asterisk to that. Well, let's start with this. It's a tale as old as time in Washington, where you've got strategists inside the White House saying, and policymakers saying, you know what, let's do this, and let's get the public's attention off of this situation. That is definitely happening. It happens in every single White House. But the wild card here is President Trump. He goes a mile a minute, and that's being kind to minutes. I mean, this guy just never stops. And so to keep him on some sort of, strategy session all the way through to the final PowerPoint bullet point, that's not going to happen. He's going to do his thing. This administration just every single item, if you will, has a tinge of controversy. So do I think some strategists in the White House want to change the subject? Of course. Will President Trump? He'll do it his way, just like he did in that first inauguration when he sang, or he didn't sing it, he danced to that song "My Way" with him and Melania Trump. It's been that way ever since.
And David, so the president...
Oh, go ahead. If I could add
Kelly.
real quickly to what David was talking about in response to the UNESCO situation, one of the chief reasons why the president did this, as he did in the first term, but most notably in this particular moment, is the fact that UNESCO has adopted the Palestinian, recognizing the Palestinian state. And that is something the president doesn't want to get into because of the rise of anti-Semitism, also where the United States stands in solidarity with Israel, and the ongoing situation between Israel and Hamas and trying to settle things there to get a ceasefire in Gaza. So that's very important to the president as well as to the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio.
David, as a veteran journalist, what I was just going to say is we all always ask about the timing. The timing of the release of the intelligence claims is curious. Kelly, I'm going to ask you, since you just jumped in, about President Trump. Today he met with Filipino counterpart at the White House to discuss China. Trump also announced that the United States and the Philippines are very close to a big trade deal. What more can you tell us about that and the status of the other pending trade deals with other countries?
So here's what's most important about this impending trade deal between the United States and the Philippines. Both countries need it. President Marcos Jr. Reiterated that. The president talked about it. The president stated that the president of the Philippines is a tough person to negotiate with, but they are getting to a trade deal. And they realize that it's important in terms of the strategy that must be applied in order to be that defensive posture in terms of military strength there related to China. So that's something that they really want to focus on. What can they do in the Philippines to make sure the United States is protected, that the Philippines is protected, and all the Pacific Rim allies are protected in that area.
Okay, David, Kelly, gentlemen, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Well, in other news, the Trump administration released a massive amount of documents on the assassination of civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. The documents, about 240,000 in total, have been sealed since a court order in 1977. Dr. King's children, Bernice and Martin III, opposed the release. They say the FBI used illegal tactics against their father and urged caution in analysis, writing, quote, "We strongly condemn any attempts to misuse these documents in ways intended to undermine our father's legacy and the significant achievements of the movement," end quote. President Trump said the release of the document is important for transparency, although some accuse the president of trying to distract from the current controversy. Bernice King, writing on X, now do the Epstein files.
Coming up, Russia launches a barrage of attacks in Ukraine as the two sides prepare for another round of peace talks. Welcome back. Russia and Ukraine are expected to hold another round of talks tomorrow. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says the meeting will be held in Turkey, a plan he put forward over the weekend. Russia has agreed, but so far no details have been released. A Kremlin spokesperson says they don't expect, quote, any miraculous breakthrough. This despite President Trump's warning last week, threatening to hit Russia with sanctions if there's no ceasefire in 50 days. In the Middle East, Israeli forces are driving deeper into central Gaza.
That's right, and that all comes as talks for ceasefire and hostage deal show no signs of breakthrough. Israel believes Hamas may be holding some of the 50 remaining hostages in the city of Deir al-Balah, which had largely been spared from the fighting. Meanwhile, Gazans across the Strip struggle to get food and aid. Humanitarian groups say the territory is at risk of famine. However, Israel says it is allowing aid to enter the Strip and is accusing Hamas of hoarding food for themselves.
Most patients admitted to the hospital recently are not suffering from war injuries, but from severe malnutrition. Even some of our medical workers have fainted from lack of food.
In neighboring Syria, a tense truce holds after days of bloodshed in the southern city of Saga. Clashes broke out between Druze militias and Bedouin tribal fighters, leaving hundreds dead. Today, the State Department confirmed that an American citizen was killed in those attacks. The U.S. is now pressuring for accountability, with Secretary of State Marco Rubio calling on Damascus to prevent, quote, violent jihadists from carrying out massacres. Well, where warfare meets AI, we take you inside the team bringing Silicon Valley to the U.S. military. Well, welcome back. Modern warfare is changing fast, and it's becoming harder to predict. From Ukraine to the Middle East, new tech like artificial intelligence and drones is shaping the fight.
Yeah, and to keep up, the U.S. is relying on a special Pentagon unit called a Disruptor. They're bringing high-tech tools and bold tactics straight to the front lines. CBN national security correspondent Caitlin Burke takes a closer look.
The arms race of the 21st century no longer focuses on hardware like missiles and tanks. It's about algorithms, AI, and the speed of innovation. To gain a cutting edge over our adversaries, the Defense Department is looking to the private sector. And the team making it happen is the Defense Innovation Unit, or DIU.
When I think about the mission of DIU, it is very, very firmly rooted in the fact that we need to make sure our service members, our warfighters, have the best technology on the battlefield and whatever that battlefield looks like in the future. And to do that, you have to think outside of the box. You have to think outside of the Pentagon, and you have to be able to move with speed.
The unit's director of commercial engagement, Sarah Pearson, has a background in both military service and commercial tech development. Sitting down with CBN News, she explained the importance of bringing a Silicon Valley mentality to the Pentagon.
When we bump into red tape of, oh, let's go do this formal thing, this will take 3 to 6 months, we're just immediately questioning that. And we just, frankly, we've never accepted kind of what those timelines were. We've got to bring the best that sits outside of the government right now and bring it in as quick as possible, because the world is dynamic and you don't know when you're going to be forced to really push those different capabilities into an operational use case.
Created nearly a decade ago, this group operates as a startup within the Department of Defense. They focus exclusively on getting this tech into the field and ready to use by the U.S. military at commercial, not government speed.
The majority of the technology we needed no longer sat within our national labs or within the companies that were continuously supplying the Defense Department. Instead, a lot of that innovation in the capital that was fueling that innovation was occurring across our country, in spots like Silicon Valley, and Austin, and Boston, and New York.
From battlefield drones to satellite analysis and cybersecurity, DIU has launched more than 100 commercial solutions since its founding in 2015. The unique process being teams first learning the different needs within the Defense Department, then taking the issue straight to the private sector.
So we share the problem on the website, we leave it up, we go through a series of down selections. Ultimately, that plays out over about 90 days, 3 to 4 months. At the end of that 3 to 4 month period, we put companies on contract to then come deploy their capability. Let's validate if the capability solves the problem that we have. We'll do a little bit of extra development in there to really make it a slam dunk. And then if it solves the problem, now let's go scale it. Let's go bring other people across the Defense Department to benefit from that capability.
Domino Data Lab is one of DIU's latest partners. Their mission? Help the U.S. Navy find a better way to identify threats underwater.
What the Navy was looking for was a way to rapidly iterate AI models for underwater target detection. Their current process took almost a year to retrain and redeploy a model. And you can imagine that is not acceptable. Our platform was the backbone for rebuilding and retraining those models and deploying them more rapidly. And Domino helped dramatically reduce the time required from over 6 months to under a week. And our target is to get that down to a day in the future.
Chief Operating Officer Thomas Robinson tells CBN News, although Domino had never worked with the military, the potential became clear when the request came in for the Navy's Project Ammo.
One of the horror stories you hear many times from startups that try and engage with the Department of Defense is it takes forever. You spend a lot of time, you spend a lot of money waiting to get to a significant contract. And honestly, when we met the DIU, it seemed like a different way of working.
Domino's success on Project Ammo resulted in the opportunity and funding to move into other areas within the Pentagon. Robinson sees building trustworthy tools for warriors as their top priority.
We test extensively. We monitor the systems that are operational so that we make sure that they're still working within their design parameters. In the same way, you wouldn't want to rely upon a weapon that misfires. You can't rely on an AI system that doesn't give you an accurate result.
In a world where the pace of warfare can shift by the minute, Pearson says America's ability to innovate is critical.
If we want to be able to deter war in the future, which for us at DIU is still the top priority, deterrence, or if we do need to engage, we want to make sure we have capabilities that ensure we win if we're forced to fight.
As the Defense Innovation Unit continues to break down barriers, the Pentagon is proving it can cut loose from bureaucracy and keep pace with cutting-edge technology, an edge that could define success on tomorrow's battlefield. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, the Pentagon.
Thank you, Caitlin. And still ahead, a dog who prefers to throw rather than catch. Next on Faith Nation.
Last week, Jenna and I were talking about dogs and how they're a gift maybe from the Lord to help kids learn how to love. I'm not sure about this story. There's a dog, though, with a unique skill that's charming the internet.
Yeah, it's a twist on the game of fetch, and it's earned millions of views online. It all started during the pandemic when Adrian and Michael were working from their New York City apartment, and their dog, Dash, tried to get their attention. The now 7-year-old corgi would pick up his toys, hurl them into the air, usually right into the back of his owner's heads, and often during video meetings.
Well, the number one question we always get is, how did you train Dash to throw toys at you? And we're always just like, why would we ever train our dog to throw toys at us? Dash is our first dog, for both of us. So we kind of thought this was normal.
And Dash has become quite the social media star, greeting his fans in Central Park and even appearing on the field at a New York Giants game. He has got a lot of personality.
A lot of personality and a little demanding.
Yeah, likes attention.
Yeah. Thanks for watching.
Have a great night.
Cute dog.
You know?